Hello and welcome to the Red Zone, the tight end analysis podcast for the Divisional round. I'm Big Italy 42. He's Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. Obviously, there's not a ton of tight end options for this week. Only 4 games, only 8 teams left. But this first one, kind of an obvious play here. Greg Olsen for the Carolina Panthers. We know that Seattle, not quite the defense that they once were, and they have struggled at times with tight ends this season. And obviously, being Cam Newton, eventual league MVP's favorite target, is certainly a good place to be. And Greg Olsen's going to need to have a big game in this one if Carolina's going to get past Seattle. And we were talking on the quarterback pod about how we think that this one could be high scoring. And if this one's going to be high scoring, got to imagine that Greg Olsen's going to get in on the action.
Yeah, and you look at the last time they met, and Olsen torched Seattle with those 7 catches, 131 yards, and a touchdown. It's been their one big glaring weakness against any position has been tight ends for Seattle. So, like you mentioned, he's the number 1 target there. He's averaged pretty much 8 targets per game this season. He finished 72 yards behind Gronk in receiving yards per tight end. So, he sees 25% of all passing targets in Carolina. So he's a bit cheaper than Gronk. He has a better matchup than Gronk. I think he's, yes, he does have a low floor, but you could say that about any tight end this week. So, best matchup for me, I think you just fire him up.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Next up, Travis Kelce. You mentioned right at the beginning here, Jerry Maclin, his status uncertain for this week. Even if he goes, you imagine he's going to be somewhat limited. And Kelce, measurable-wise, up there, just about as big as Gronkowski. He's a big target. He's a reliable target. He can make plays down the field. He's tough to tackle. He catches short passes. All those things are perfect for a guy like Alex Smith, who likely going to be under pressure this week, as he has been seemingly every week this year. So Travis Kelce, if you're not going Greg Olsen, Kelce is definitely the guy that I'm going with.
Yeah, definitely. Especially at the discount you have on DK where he's 5,100. Kelce's more expensive than Olsen on FanDuel, so I'd rather just pay up for Olsen there and be done with it. But, the matchup's not bad, but it's not great either. New England ranks 15th against opposing tight ends per Football Outsiders. They do rank 7th in fantasy points allowed per game, but they haven't faced a ton of tight ends that are in that elite status. Kelce's definitely up there as one of the better fantasy tight ends. So, if Maclin was to miss this week, that's 26% of the passing targets that's out there in the open. And you got to think Kelce gets more of those shares.
Yeah, if Macklin's out, he's bumped up into borderline must play, at least on DK, where you have the option to play 2 guys if you want.
Yeah.
GPP plays, of course, Rob Gronkowski. You knew he'd be in here somewhere. Obviously, he has the big-time upside. Speculation that New England's looking at potentially signing a wide receiver for this week. I don't know if that's gamesmanship on the part of Bill Belichick or what it is, but that would lend you to believe that maybe Edelman's not completely healthy. And, this is a team that has been banged up this year, and Gronk has had some big-time games and big-time spots, and they're going to need all the offense they can get against this really, really tough Kansas City defense. It's been the best in football over the past 3 months.
Yeah, definitely. There's nothing good about this matchup at all, but it's because the term matchup proof gets thrown around, and Gronkowski is the best tight end in the game. Although Jordan Reed might be coming for that. The guys look good this season. But, Gronk, you know what he's going to do. He's going to get his looks. He's going to get tons of red zone looks, which you got to imagine the Patriots are going to move the ball somewhat this season against, better offenses than what Kansas City has faced lately. But, still, on a 4-game slate, Gronk has to be in play, even with a bad matchup.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mr. Hail Mary himself, Richard Rodgers, next up. Obviously, we keep talking about how there's a Packers passing game that's been inconsistent this season without Jordy Nelson. Richard Rodgers hasn't been necessarily a consistent option, but when he gets targets, he catches the ball. He's a very reliable target when the ball comes his way, and he gets looks in the red zone as well. And this is going to be a really tough matchup. Don't imagine there's going to be a whole lot of running room either. So Aaron Rodgers will need to be at his best, and you got to imagine he could end up being, I don't want to say the odd man out, but if I'm the Arizona Cardinals, I'm looking to stop David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald and Michael Floyd. And I'm on the opposite side. I'm talking
Randall
Cobb,
James Jones.
Randall Cobb, James Jones, James Starks out of the backfield. All the guys who are deep threats that can turn a small play into a big play. Rodgers really isn't that guy, but kind of like a sheer volume play, the guy that could get 6-7 catches and turn into some decent yardage.
Yeah, he's your value play for this week, and I'd rather pay up for Olsen, but I don't mind doing the two tight end system, which worked last week if you played. And Devontae Adams doubtful for this week. That's 15% of the passing targets up in the air, and Jared Abbrederis, he's going to step into the role, but you got to think Rodgers gets just a little bit more of a bump just because he's been, I guess you could say, on the same page as Aaron Rodgers this season, because he does have 8 touchdowns. So,
yeah,
with a game total of 50, I'll take some value shots here.
Yeah, absolutely. Rodgers to Rodgers, certainly. Maybe you get a touchdown here for cheap, and nobody else gets in the end zone and ends up paying out pretty well. But you never know. Either way, that'll wrap things up for us. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out the rest of our content at dailyfantasycafe.com.